Time now for a special encounter here on BOTT Radio Network. Here's your host for today, Station Manager Paul Sublett.
Good afternoon and welcome to Encounter. I'm Paul Sublett, your host, and we have in studio today one of our candidates for the Superintendent of Education of the state of Oklahoma, and we are proud to have Ms. Joy Hofmeister with us today, the current state of Education Superintendent.
Yes. Thank you
I
so
wrote
much.
that down and I still stumble over it. We're glad to have you with us. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and we'll just ask you to answer those questions. I won't respond to your answers, and you may take as much time as you want. If you go through the 5 questions in the allotted time, then we will let you have all the time left to just do a stump speech if you want to.
Okay.
So I'm going to start right ahead with you, and good to have you in studio with us today.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
Question number 1. As an employee of the state, you will reap benefits of pay, retirement, etc. Your life will be better because you have a job and because you're working. As a citizen of Oklahoma, how will my life be better with you as a superintendent of education?
Well, we appreciate the fact that it is taxpayer dollars that fund education, that also fund the work of our State Department of Education, and that is an incredible responsibility. We don't take that lightly. I certainly don't. How will lives of Oklahomans be better? It starts with really collaborating with those who are in classrooms today, those who have been in classrooms long ago and know what worked in the past. I think it's very important that we learn lessons from people with experience. But we also have to talk with our faith-based community. I have a faith-based advisory council that we seek counsel, and also those that serve as community leaders. Most importantly, family. Family members need to be a part of any plan that we put forward that affects and impacts children. So the benefit comes in working collaboratively and working the plan. We have an 8-year plan now for education. We've needed a long-term plan. What's happened in the past is we've responded and reacted, and it is time to then listen. And after 14 months of working to refine a lot of the thoughts and goals and priorities of Oklahomans, we have worked to develop a long-range plan for education. And it is a plan then that we want to work. And in doing that, we will lift academic outcomes for students. We want our kids to be ready for their next steps in learning, even after they graduate from high school. They need to be ready, not needing to retake classes that they should have already learned while they were still in high school. But it also means ready at the end of every school year for the next grade, and making sure that kids are on track or in the right pacing to not lose any ground. So the benefit, I think, comes in how our students can be prepared, but also it comes in what we have done to really have greater efficiencies. Do you know we examined our testing budget, and we looked at the kinds of tests that were given to Oklahoma school kids that were burdensome to teachers and took away time for instruction, and said, let's evaluate that. I led the charge to eliminate all testing that's not federally required, except for one, and that's U.S. history. I think that needs to stay in place. Too many children don't have a good, strong foundation in history, particularly in American history. And so by doing this, we actually slashed the testing budget by 46% while I've been in office. And that is something that saves millions and millions of dollars every year. So there is a financial benefit if I'm in office. We're going to keep doing that kind of work. And then the second part is that there's a benefit in a readiness for kids. We want our kids to be able to compete just like they should be able to with any child in any other state.
Okay. Question number 2. Based on your understanding, what are the duties of the Superintendent of Education?
Yeah. Well, my role as State Superintendent is to advocate for the needs of Oklahoma school children. It is my job, my constitutional responsibility to lead the budget preparation, to articulate that. I'm the chairman of the State Board of Education in this position as well, and to take that need and the requested budget to the state board and then have that approved and take that to the legislature. I do that every year. In fact, it happens in January. It is, for me, the most important presentation of the year when we identify what very important resources are required to meet the needs of kids. And that includes textbooks, that includes a teacher. So many of our children do not have a teacher and instead have combined classrooms with growing class sizes. So we have very forcefully asked the legislature to meet those needs. Our kids need to know how to read. They need phonics again. We wrote new standards and made certain that we brought back phonics and cursive writing and that we get back to basics with mathematics. Too many kids are still counting on their fingers, even in middle school, even in high school. This is part of refocusing on learning for the long run and not just teaching to a test. Oh, I don't support teaching to a test. It's got to be about a deep foundation. So my job is also to really articulate the plan or education policy that we know works, but that's right for Oklahoma kids, not somebody else's idea in some other state. We only care about kids in Oklahoma, and as state superintendent, that's my priority. And then the second piece to that is accountability. As state superintendent, part of my role is to hold schools accountable for ensuring that all kids are growing and all kids are learning. And so there's a compliance aspect to the role of state superintendent. I have a philosophy about that. We have to have firm goals and firm expectations. But we also need to be sure that we're supporting our teachers and giving them the resources to succeed. So I said it when I was running the first time, and I'll say it again. I still believe it, that we need to set high expectations, but then we need to provide the supports to achieve those. And then I think government needs to get out of the way and let teachers teach.
Okay, question number 3, and we have about 2 minutes
All
left.
right.
If you win the primary, how will you defeat the Democratic opponent that is heavily backed by the unions like OEA, NEA, and AFL-CIO?
You know, the Democrat that's running is a school superintendent, and I am concerned when I hear some of the ideas because it demonstrates a lack of accountability. And I'm worried that if someone that is not interested in growing the potential of students or is not willing to ensure that all kids in all schools are growing, that should be troublesome for everyone. For me, it's about opportunities for all kids, access for all kids, and high quality. My opponent is someone that I did run against before, and he is running unopposed in his primary, so there's no primary for him. But I will challenge anyone that is not willing to listen more, that can show a proven track record of developing the strategies to ensure kids are graduating with a readiness for their next steps, and that is important to have experience in the high school level, which I have and which I think is lacking in that area of my opponent. But at the same time, I think Oklahomans just need to decide what kind of leader they want. I'm a leader who is optimistic. I want to work with people. And I also believe, though, that you have to have a firm line on expectations, and then we need to, again, let control return to teachers in classrooms.
Okay, we're out of time, but once again to our listeners, this is Ms. Joy Hofmeister, who is the current Superintendent of Education for the state of Oklahoma. And just one point of clarification, you brought it out in your answer, but the reason we allowed this question about a Democratic opponent is because there is no primary for the Democrat, and the race is among the Republican candidates.
And there's an independent as well, so it will be a three-way race in the general election.
But thank you very much for your time. Thanks for being with us on Encounter. And now we have in studio Linda Murphy, who is a candidate for the State Department of Education Superintendent.
Right.
It's probably said those words all backwards.
We can just say State Superintendent. That's easier.
So it's good to have you in studio, and we'll give you the same series of questions in the same amount of time. So I'm going to just get started right away.
Okay.
Question number one. As an employee of the state, you will reap benefits of pay and retirement, etc. Your life will be better for it. As a citizen of Oklahoma, how will my life be better with you as Superintendent of Education?
Well, as Superintendent of Education, I will serve the state. I will serve the people of the state. I will make the State Department of Education a service agency that will support and help promote good policy and practice in schools across the state to help teachers and administrators deliver a better education system for the students. So instead of a bureaucratic functioning office, it will become more a service-oriented office where they can call up and get answers, get information, and if we don't have the answer, we'll find out.
Okay. Question number two. Based on your understanding what are the duties of the Superintendent of Education? As far as you know, what are the duties? Well,
the description that I find in the state constitution, I've read that before and again recently. The definition is that this is the Chief Executive Officer of Education for the state. It's a constitutional office, along with the governor, attorney general, and others that were set up from the beginning of statehood. So our citizens have always valued education highly. The state superintendent of education will be over a number of duties and a couple of boards, also member of several boards. So just naming some of those, the state school board, the state superintendent is the president of the board. The board of career tech, the state superintendent is the chair of the board of career tech. We've got OETA, the educational channel. She is a member, or he is a member of the board for the OETA. The textbook committee, the teacher retirement system, a member of the board of regents for colleges and universities. They are also a commissioner on the Commissioners of the Land Office, which is actually school land that was set aside with a compact with the federal government. The Enabling Act gave us school land set aside in each township so that schools' education would have funding that would be permanent. And so there's a trust, and then there's revenue and interest that comes off of that trust land because it generates revenue. If it's leased or sometimes it's sold and the money is in an account, then that interest goes to the school. So that needs to be dispersed. And that's an issue that's real important right now. I'll be looking at that closely because we've got school land interest and revenue which has not been distributed through the years. It's been put back into the trust apparently. And like last year, there was about 45% sent out to the districts. And we need school money right now. So we certainly need to be working on that. So I will be a member of that commission. There are 2 or 3 others, but that's the Board of Equalization, which is very important. Certifying the funds when they come through to go into the state budget, they have to be certified by the Board of Equalization.
Okay, question number 3. If you win the primary, how will you defeat the Democratic opponent that is heavily backed by the unions, the OEA, NEA, and AFL-CIO?
I will try to reach the public as much as I can with my message and vision of education. which is to set the teachers free to teach. We've had experimental programs and mandates and laws brought down from the federal government and from state government even that have tied the hands of teachers in too many cases, where they are not actually free to teach the way they know they need to teach, and that they have been successful in teaching in the past. Some teachers have even been told in some of these past experimental regulations that we've had that they were ineffective. We've had a lot of teachers leave the classroom because they didn't like the way they were having to teach now. They weren't able to teach the way they know they need to teach. So I think we need to respect those good teachers that are professionals and give them the freedom to teach. And we need to get a lot of the regulations off of our schools, not just the teachers, but the administration as well. That's where a lot of the cost ends up being focused, is in administrative cost because of all of the rules, regulations, and forms and reports that they have to fill out. So that needs to be minimized, and it can be.
Okay, next question. What specific adjustment do you believe will be necessary for the Department of Education?
Well, in addition to making it less regulatory on the schools, one thing that we have got to do is get the testing that we're using statewide right now. The current state superintendent has put us into a testing system that is actually right from the Federal Department of Education, the NAEP, the National Assessment of Education Progress. It's really not an achievement test. It never was designed for that purpose. It was used in the past as a random spot check for schools to compare across the nation how different states are doing. Different schools would have students tested, but now it's being used as a benchmark or a guideline for all students in the lower elementary schools as they move forward in their advancement. So we need to stop that. We need a test that is academically focused, that aligns with our standards. If teachers don't teach what's on the test, if they don't teach the information that will be tested, then the students are not going to pass the test. Students are punished, teachers are punished, and we've seen that now for 2 years in a row with this new testing. And we should not have the Federal Department of Ed in control of our testing.
Okay, we have just 1 minute left. Final question. What are your qualifications that make you the right choice for Superintendent of Education for the state of Oklahoma?
I've been certified by the State Department of Ed for 30 years to teach in the state of Oklahoma. I have double certification in special education and a standard elementary ed certification. I was a teacher in public school in Caddo County and Osage County, and I have many years of experience working with education policy. In addition to that, in the governor's office, in the Department of Labor as Workforce Education and Training Director, Deputy Commissioner of Labor. So I have a lot of experience in government as well as in education.
Okay, you have 30 seconds left if you'd like to say anything else to our listening audience.
Well, I just want education in Oklahoma to become excellent. We can do that by focusing on each individual student, as we have done in the past, and some schools are doing now. Others are into processes, and we need to get back to some of the traditional understanding of how to work with students one-on-one as they need it. And we want this vision to expand the opportunities for teachers and students, so teachers love teaching and students love learning.
Okay, that's Ms. Linda Murphy, who is running for the as candidate for the State Department of Education Superintendent. We're glad to have you with us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And now we have with us Will Farrell, who is the third Republican candidate for the State Superintendent of Education. Will, it's good to have you in our studio with us.
A pleasure, Paul.
And I'm going to ask you the same 5 questions. Question number 1, as an employee of the state, you will reap benefits of pay, retirement, etc. Your life will be better for it. As a citizen of Oklahoma, how will my life be better with you as a superintendent of education?
With me as superintendent of education, I plan to be a very strong advocate for the people of Oklahoma. And it's beyond just one person in an executive position. It involves community. And we really do need to build more respect for education, keeping it as a priority. And I believe that I am definitely the strongest to set forth my mission.
Okay, question number 2. Based on your understanding of the job, what are the duties of the superintendent of education?
Well, for the superintendent of education, a lot of priority is it's an advisory role at the core. And working with the Board of Education, you can really work through the curriculum as well to shape Oklahoma, because we also have to work with legislators. And the current system, we've gone from No Child Left Behind to Common Core to TLE. And I really do think that we need to shift a direction where we pull away our governmental focus from micromanaging and comparison between the schools in a way which isn't beneficial, where we instead keep government on a roll, where we look at the policies, but we keep student development and teacher independence for educational efficacy as a focus.
Okay, question number 3. If you win the primary, how will you defeat the Democrat opponent that is heavily backed by the unions, the OEA, NEA, and AFL-CIO?
Well, I feel that after winning the primary, I welcome the challenge. I feel that not only through the primaries, but through the general election and beyond, one needs to work through compromise and talk. And I'm willing to hear positions, but I think that my focus is very different from a lot of the other candidates. So I welcome the challenge.
Okay, question number 5. What are your qualifications that make you the right choice for superintendent of education for the state of Oklahoma?
Well, I'm 32 years old, one of 5 children, and I obviously don't have 30 years or more of education in the field. But for the executive position, we need a leader who inspires. We need a leader who can work across the aisles. There's been gridlock, there's been frustration, and with the current system, I just really feel that we do need a very strong change, which at the core is conservative and yet is still an option for progress. We can't keep beating our head against the same wall, doing the same things we've been doing, and expect some magic to happen.
Okay, well, you finished our list of 5 questions. You have 4.5 minutes left if you would like to
Sure.
stump speech, help yourself.
Well, I mean, I can do what I can. And just to clarify a little more about myself, I get a few jokes. I'm Will Farrell. I was born in New York and had a nice little journey to Oklahoma, starting in Hoboken, then Buffalo, New York, and then Jacksonville, Florida. And then I came to Tulsa in 2001. And one of the most important parts that I see in education that we're really not focusing on is a lot of the progress is putting students through these tests. And you want to be able to measure some kind of value in what you are doing. But one of the problems, it's almost as if we're getting into a system of analysis paralysis, where we just have so many options to try to manage this growth, but the growth that we're experiencing just isn't enough, and it falls short of development for students. I mean, one of the most important, I understand that we do need some form of management to receive federal aid, but for all these tests and all the time, and it's not just the physical act of taking the test, that one test day or multiple test days, or even all the weeks of preparation that the students and the teachers physically experience. There is an emotional load behind all of this, and it's very frustrating, and it seeps through the communities, especially when students don't have a strong social network through parents, whether they're single parents or whether parents are both pulled across from traditional roles of helping to foster their children grow and become the people of the future. So it's frustrating in that regard. And we've had a lot of gridlock in our government, and a lot of it we're just right now arguing around the outside circle of the problem. We're working through the how. How are we going to work through with this money that we may or may not have, that there's no guarantee? is there enough, and usually not enough. But for the problem, we need to go past that how and move to the central question of why we are doing, why education matters. I feel that we need a stronger, much stronger focus on education. Education needs to be a very strong priority for the state of Oklahoma. I see great things for Oklahoma. Again, I've only been here since 2001, but I moved here from Jacksonville, Florida. I thought it would be nothing but desert and tumbleweeds. That's the perception as an outsider, you know, but when you come in, I grew to love Oklahoma, starting with Tulsa, where I really was raised. It's interesting. I had my primary education a lot through Florida in Jacksonville. And then in Tulsa, I came here my sophomore year at Cashel Hall in Tulsa. And it's really been wonderful getting to know Oklahoma. It's a fabulous place to be. I enjoy traveling, going out and seeing the world. And a lot of it, you know, Oklahoma is a great home base. And we need to make this a home base where we retain teachers, where we keep people in our state. We don't need billboards taunting our teachers to leave us. We need to set a foundation where we inspire people to stay. It's very important.
Okay, well, Will Farrell, we appreciate you taking time to be with us. We thank all three of our candidates for the State Department of Education Superintendent, and we wish you all well in your upcoming primary, and thank you for spending time with us here. That's it for Encounter. I'm Paul Sublett.
And I'm Will Farrell. It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed this special edition of Encounter here on BOTT Radio Network. Email us with any comments to kqcv@bottradionetwork.com.